All right, everybody. I am excited. We're live. We got a ton of people cycling into the room. So welcome, welcome. We are so excited to bring this content to you. We're going to be talking about Azure Government Virtual Machines. Now, understanding scaling and efficiency with Azure Government Virtual Machines. Now we're getting fun. Quick recap of Microsoft Virtual Machines versus Azure Virtual Machines. Don't need to do that. Scaling in larger user environments. Examples of 50 users on 5 machines. Okay, we've talked about that quite a bit. Again, when it comes to being able to scale, I don't think there's any solution like this. Again, you're just using the resources that you need. There are load balancers. There are all kinds of things to focus on efficiency that you get with this, and it's pretty incredible. Reality of taking advantage of CPU clock cycles and real-world usage to achieve dramatic savings. Okay. If I can only pay for 5 machines to support 50 users, aren't I going to do that every time? I am. I mean, we do it at our company. I think we have something like 7 or 8 different consulting teams, and they all use one virtual machine, and it's all isolated and air gapped away from each other. It's amazing. It's kind of eye-opening, really. Examples of making non-compliant software compliant. So here's another one. GitHub Enterprise. A lot of people do not know this. There is a GitHub for government that is approved and all that other good stuff. Okay, they host it themselves. However, GitHub Enterprise has what is called a FedRAMP tailored authorization. By the way, if you're not familiar with what GitHub is, it's a very common piece of software used for people who develop applications. I won't get further into it, but the idea, anyway, we're going to run with the idea. So GitHub Enterprise, they host it, and it does not meet FedRAMP moderate or equivalent baselines. It is a tailored FedRAMP authorization that frankly features a lot of FedRAMP low authorizations. So again, not a good solution for you. However, you can take GitHub Enterprise and host it yourself. So the scenarios where that would be compliant would be if you hosted it on your local network at your office, right? Because you can physically protect that. It's not a cloud service at that point. Or you could take that and privately host it on an Azure virtual machine. And then it's compliant and you get the advantage of it being cloud hosted. Huge. Now we can take a non-compliant system, run it in a compliant environment, and we are good to go. Huge. Love, love, love. Because let me tell you what, try getting a hold of a rep at GitHub when it comes to the government solution. It's impossible. That is not unusual for a lot of government software solutions. So huge fan of this. Again, we can make a lot of non-government or non-FedRAMP moderate or better solutions work within what is essentially a FedRAMP high environment if we're hosting it within this environment. This is big, big, big. ERP systems for manufacturing companies. You guys, I'm talking to you in manufacturing. This is mega for you, okay? Mega. We want to be careful though. So you still can't run Dropbox in here. You can run it. You can totally run Dropbox on a virtual PC. You just can't have CUI in the Dropbox. Why? Because that data is then it then syncs to a non-compliant place with Dropbox. So I want to be careful and make sure I'm giving the correct understanding there. Now, this might be a good picture of you. And if it is, well, at the end of this, I'm going to give you some contact information. I'm going to invite you to give us a call. How to get compliant quickly, even when what you have now is hopeless. Okay. Some of my IT directors out there are just smashing their face. They're like, how in the world am I going to do this? How am I going to get this network compliant? And I understand I've been in your shoes. Here's the good news. Let's face it, for some companies, the barrier to compliance is just too high. Cost, politics, and mating the relevant expense of getting compliant to the profit coming from the defense work is tough. It just really may be difficult to justify the spend to get your environment compliant. Maybe you only have a small defense contract. Maybe it's just a short-term contract. I've been there. Totally get it. It's very frustrating. Maybe you have a company where the politics are not good. All right, we can talk all we want about synergistic, blah, blah, blah. Dude, sometimes your organization is governed by another organization, and it's just not easy to get some things done. I don't need to really go extensively there, but we see it a lot. I'm not going to call anybody out, but I get it. Like we really, really get it. Another issue is maybe you've got just a culture at your office where everybody works on their own devices. We see this all the time. All right. So solving for work from home and bringing your own device with virtual machines. They can have their own device. It's fine. Their device can't mix data into this government environment. Now, all of a sudden, it's totally cool for you to be able to do BYOD. It's the ultimate solvency. I'm such a huge fan. Um, and controlling data loss and data leakage with virtual machines becomes so much easier because they are built with rules to disable things like redirection, disable things like screen sharing. As a matter of fact, actually, if I'm going to try to do this demo, if it doesn't work out, you guys, I apologize. Call me anytime and I'll give you a live demo. We may potentially have a security rule in place that will blank the screen and disallow sharing. I'm not 100% sure if they turn that off. I actually didn't tell my team that I was going to do this demo in this way. But that's the fun of webinars with on-call, right? It's off the cuff. It's very real. We don't sugarcoat anything. I'm really going to show you how it works. And if nothing else, I'll walk you through it, even if I can't show you the screen, because honestly, the screen's not that exciting. It just looks like a normal computer. But again, the idea here is you've got things like Microsoft's data loss prevention. You've got things like turning off, screen sharing or screen capture. We can literally stop people from taking screenshots of the screen. I might even be able to demonstrate that. Uh, Lots and lots of ways. I can block them from going to Dropbox. I can block them from going all kinds of stuff with this. Again, the idea really is that you can control data loss so much better in a virtualized environment. I can spin up 1 to 1,000 machines in Azure Government and why it may be faster, easier, and more cost-effective to scale virtual versus in-house. If you scale in-house, guess what you're doing? You're going out to buy new equipment every time. Every time. I got a company right now that we're working with. They have $500,000 to $1 million worth of infrastructure they have to go buy, not because the hardware is bad, but because the hardware won't work with VMware 8 and VMware 7. Well, guess what? It ends support at the end of, midway through 2025. They got 18 months. That's it, 18 months, and they got to have it replaced. $500,000 worth of hardware that honestly, there's not really anything that wrong with. Hey, that's life. That's how it works. No more in the Azure Government Virtual Environment. Why? Because there's no hardware layer. You just eliminate all those big capital expenditures on hardware. Who really needs to handle CUI and ITAR anyway, right? Pairing on-calls gap analysis and solution design program with CUI scoping and Azure Government Virtual Infrastructure design and planning. So if you feel hopeless, or if you feel like you're struggling, or maybe you're crushed by IT tickets, or maybe at the end of the day, after this webinar, you're kind of beginning to realize, wow, there are a lot of ways to get compliant. And maybe what we really need to do is bring in an expert team who knows all of the ways to get compliant and get some expert advice. My proposal to you is this. The first step that we take with every single defense client that will let us do it our way is we perform a gap analysis and solution design program. What does that allow us to do? It allows us to do a deep dive discovery with you and your company so that we can completely understand what you have going on and absolutely make the right best decisions and recommendations on how to proceed. Maybe it's Azure Virtual Machines. Maybe it's not. We know what the costs are. We know what the costs of the solutions are on the market to get you compliant. We can literally sit there with you during that consultation and give you proposals and put pricing together for you and your senior leadership. We can do it all, but we do have to understand you, and that takes a little bit of time, right? Average consultation is 2 to 3 days. If you've got multiple locations, add on about a day or two for each location. We're not talking about a whole lot of time. Here's the best part. Bring us in first. Do not sit here and try to get compliant and then call us. That's a waste of your time and it's a waste of our time. All right. If you need to get compliant and you aren't there, it's time to call us. Just call right now. Let's go through the gap analysis and solution design program. And in that program, we will also spec out your enclave for free, no problem, right? We can spec out virtual machines. We can show you what it looks like if you go virtual machine versus non-virtual machine. We'll have an intelligent conversation about what's best for the company. And after doing this over 1,000, I mean, gosh, if you count our commercial clients, several thousand times, and then actively managing those environments worldwide, we've got a pretty good eye for it. And I got to tell you, our consultation teams are brilliant. I mean, they're just these are the best of the best, you guys. if you're an IT guy, I got to tell you, um, we have people all over the world who want to come and work with us just to get to know us and get to know our systems and how we do what we do. We're very, very, very privileged to just have the best of the best people who want to come serve their country, who want to be in an absolute top of class information security and cybersecurity firm. It's a really great place. Our people love to come here and grow. Um, you're just dealing with the upper echelon of what's out there and what's possible in terms of consultative services. Look, if you're a small business and you're like, oh my God, there's no way I can afford this guy. Hey, you can, I promise. We have set aside programs, just like the government does. We have set aside programs that are specific for small businesses. Okay. And if you're an enterprise, yes, doesn't matter how big you are. Okay. I can't really name names because we're under NDAs and confidentialities. But there's a lot of four-letter worded defense companies out there that we work with. There's a lot of three-letter worded defense companies we work with, and we'll just say we've worked with the best. I can definitely say we've worked with the Navy and some of the other branches of the government before. There's a lot of places that you would, household names in defense that and we've basically done subcontractors for every major government prime out there. So we'd love to help with that. And the first thing I would do is we would do a gap analysis and solution design program with you. And then we would scope where the CUI is, right? Let's figure out what do we really need to protect. And then we can figure out, does it make sense to go into Azure Virtual Machines? And then we can make that decision on what is truly the right solution for your company. Okay. If you're watching this webinar and up until now you've been feeling really hopeless and frustrated about this whole process, I just want you to walk away from this webinar knowing that there is an easier way. And all you've got to do is just reach out, give us a call, go to one of our websites and submit one of the forms, and it absolutely can be so much easier. And by the way, if you're on a tight time frame, maybe you already should have been compliant, we can do this in a very small amount of time. So time won't limit us either. Again, this is not our first time at the rodeo, and we're excited to help you.